about offense. So indoor ultimate high-level offense has very few turnovers, like really few. So that means that you have to have the necessary mindset that go along with your skills to win those games, and that means you have to take care of the disc a lot. Okay, so basically, you need to throw just the throws that have a high likelihood of completion, because otherwise you just give a bit too many turnovers for the other team, and the other team will take advantage of them. So that's something to keep in mind when you play indoor. It's just like the turnovers are really, really costly, more than outdoor games. The games are shorter, plus it's harder to get the disc away indoors. As there is no wind, you should almost always find an easy reset option. And you can go and run 30 meters backwards if you need to, and find the reset. So you should not throw it away. In terms of offensive setups, I do not have a clear preference saying that I think this offensive setup is better and this offensive setup is worse. At least that is not my experience. I think that you can be successful with different offensive setups indoor, and it comes down to more of your players, what offensive setup really suits the players that you have, and then of course that you practice that setup a lot. So you can be successful with many setups, in my opinion. But what is important is that you choose the setup that fits your players and the team. So you shouldn't just say, hey, we played this setup because I played it in my previous team and it was great. You should really think, what kind of players do you have in your team? Are you good at throwing? Are you good at catching? Or are you good at running? Are you good at smaller plays, bigger plays? What is it? And then choose your offense and build it around that. So choose the tactics that brings out the strengths of your team. So what setups there are, I'll just run through them. The ones that I'm aware of, which are sort of useful. Maybe you can later on add on some more. But and the way how I do them is that I present them from the setups that are most using throwing, and then they go and to where they are most about running. Okay, so the first setups are you have to have really good throws, and the last setups you have to be good at running. So the first setup with that's really relying on throwing, that is the German, the 3-1-1. That is the one that I showed downstairs just before. So you have your three handlers. You isolate one cutter in the middle, and you have one cutter in the end zone. Say this is here. There's backhand. And that is really reliant on the fact that you have here a very good thrower who can put it somewhere to this isolated player with a successful throw and a catch, and then that this player is also a good thrower and then will throw it to the end zone to another good catcher. I mean, in theory, you don't even need these. If you have three good players, you're sort of good to go. You can even maybe do it with two. So he throws there, then he dumps it, and then he goes in the end zone and does it. So this is like really full isolation, really focused on throwing. It's not so much about running. Usually you put the throw into space, and then the person just runs and catches it high. And usually, they also play either with one person or two person afterwards in the end zone. Usually two. So when they get close to, so if they don't score right away, then their setup will just be, two people in the end zone, and then just three handlers. Right? Okay, questions about this one?
I have a very specific question.
Ask.
Can I just draw it real quick?
You can draw it.
Like about the same setup.
Sorry.
So when the middle player, like what I said downstairs, when they're actually being covered here, what's the play? Because we ran it a lot with the team, right, last year, and pretty much the only way to go is here. And when the player gets the disc here, then we're actually in a very awkward position where this player doesn't really have a power position. All the players are behind the disc and it just stops. So initially, when the player is covered from behind, do we just still take the under, or what's the play?
Yeah, so good question. So I think that what can really improve sort of this setup is that you are sort of starting the play before the play starts. So what you do is that you are putting yourself in the best position even before the throw goes up. So you see where you go run there. Like sometimes you have time, sometimes it's a bad pull or whatever, then it's especially good. But even, and sometimes you don't have time. If you don't have time, that's what it is. But if you have time, then let's say that if you're being defended like this, like in a normal way, then what you should do as this player is that you should take one step towards him, see what he does. If he still stays there, take one more step towards him, see what he does. If he still stays there, I mean, keep doing it. Alright, I mean, maybe this is already enough, right? So like move him out of the position, like create this extra space for you. Now you showed this example where he was there, right? So what you should do is you should move towards him. So move here. Move here.
Well, I can't go through them, right?
Step next to them then. Like, I mean, so Sam comes on. All right. So he's, which way are we going? So we are attacking that way.
Mm-hmm.
So disc is there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if he's there, then I go here. Okay, I see what he does. Then he maybe wants to follow me, and then he goes there, and then I go further. So I make this space really big, and then instead of thank you, and instead of you can sit down, and then so instead of cutting here under, see if you can cut here to the side. So see if you can move him a bit here, and see if you can cut here, so you get the disc here instead of here. Because I agree, this sucks. This is not really good. I'm sorry. This is not very good. But here it's much more advantageous because now you know, you can really have a focus on one-on-one situation there. So I would try. To sum up, I would say, see if you can move this player out of position even before you move, so you have more space to work with. And then instead of getting the disc under, see if you can get it more, win a few more meters right away. Are you happy with that?
Yeah.
Sort of?
Sort of.
Do you want to have some more comments, questions?
No, I think it's tough, like in a practical sense, but I get what you mean. I'll try it out in trainings.
Mm-hmm. Try it out.
Replicate it. Yeah.
Play with it. Yes. Good. More questions on the setup? 3-1-1. Okay. Then next one is two-person host stack. So now a bit more running is involved because you have simultaneously two players that are a threat. But it's still important to be a good thrower because the other team needs to worry that you're just going to throw it deep. Okay, so you need to have a thrower that can effectively and often and with a high accuracy throw it deep. Because these players need to both be able to cut here to the open side, cut here to the break side, cut here to the break side, and cut here to the open side. It doesn't run like that, but basically, like we need to, like this offense needs to attack like all of these four spots at the same time. So you need to have throwers that are able to do it, read like what is happening, who's going to be free, and then throw it there. A very common thing how to run it is that you run the diamond. You can run it both ways. You can either run it one way around or the other way around. I think the more effective way is to run it so that the open side cutter attacks the break side space, the break side cutter attacks the open side base deep, and then if those throws are not on, then this one is coming under, and then this one is going deep. Okay. Then as a thrower here, you see, okay, is this on? Option number 1. Is this on? Option number 2. Is this on? Option number 3. And you probably don't have time for option number 4 because stall is too high. But you actually have time for 3 options now. You can also run it the other way around and do some different things, but let's say this would be the most standard way of running a 2-person host stack. Okay, questions, comments on 2-person host stack?
What about the handlers? Should they just stand there or?
Yeah, good question. Yes, in a way, the handlers, like this setup is again focused on the 2 cutters having the whole field. So if the handlers, if the defenders of the handlers are actually guarding them tight, then the handler should just stay there because that's best for offense. Yes, there's like 3 defensive players who are sort of not really a big deal, and then it's just 2v2 on the whole field, and that is great. There's a lot of options, and you have good throwers and good cutters, and you're able to do that. And then as a dump, you just wait here, and when the thrower needs you, then they look at you, and then you make your dump cut and get the reset. Of course, if your defenders are starting to poach earlier, then you might want to react, and depending on how they poach, maybe go up, cut up line, or just yell poach, and then the throw goes to you, and then you try to break. Yes. More questions? No? Good. So that was a 2-player host stack. Then the next one is the 1-1-1 stack. Has anyone played the 1-1-1 stack?
Is it vertical stack or?
It's a vertical stack, but it's not. It's a stretched vertical stack. So has anyone played a setup like this?
Well, only if someone's defending zone, then you can stretch the whole stack a bit,
Yeah.
deep and
Yeah.
but not.
Yes, but not on a man-to-man.
Yeah.
Yes. So this is then a new setup which you can have fun with. You can try it out. Maybe just at a normal training, just at the end play. So basically, what you do is that you just create 3 1v1 situations on the field. There's a bit of limitations to where you can throw, but essentially, you have still the 1v1 situations. Okay. So the idea is that you first try to throw to this person, and they have this space to work with. When they get to this, then they try to throw to this person. They have this space to work with, and they get to this, and then you throw to the end zone. So you create some isolation in this way, and when you practice this a little bit, then defense sort of starts to get the idea. Then you can improve on that, and then instead of just looking at one person, this person can sort of look at 2 players simultaneously, because they don't necessarily need to throw to this first player's space. Maybe at the same time this player is already beating their player, or the defense tries some funny poach, so they can maybe put the break side throw right away here. So you can sort of skip a layer as well if you want. And then what you can also do is that you can switch people between the layer. So maybe you say, okay, why don't you make a move like here, and if you don't get the disc, then you go up, and then this player then reacts and sees whether it's more beneficial to come here or there, and then gets the disc. So you can sort of work together. But this is, for example, the Danish beach team has played this successfully against like really good European teams. So if you have, you need to have sort of good throwers and good cutters to do this, because these players need to be good at cutting. Like they also need to be good at running. This is now not just a tall guy standing like in the 3-1-1 setup. This is like these people need to be also good at running and reacting to the situation. It requires quite a lot of smart reacting to different situations, this one. Because you really need to work together. But if you do it well, then it's really hard to defend. Because if you just defend one-on-one, it's tough. And if you start poaching, then it opens up a lot of options to beat.
What do the handlers do here though? Like it's gonna become a lot of them at some point.
No, like, I mean, it's like usually you flow from this starting setup, let's say, to a normal vertical stack. So you could say, we play this one-on-one on long field, and when we go midfield, and we haven't scored right away, then you say, okay, then we play a two-person vertical on the opposing side of the field. So this is maybe more tuned for the beginning. But that would be the same for a two-person host stack. You would also flow from the host stack probably to a vert stack in the end zone, and also from the German setup. Yes. Any more questions?
Have you also seen this used indoors? Because it kind of feels like there wouldn't be enough
Yeah, like
space.
in Denmark they played it indoors,
Okay.
and it's fine. Like, I think you can effectively play it. I think that on a high level, you need to be smart of when you switch the player. Like, you can't in a high level you can't sort of play this 1-1-1 and that's it. I mean, you will be shut down. But if you if you switch these players and they sort of work together, then it can really work. Because in a way you could say that, just ignore that there is this person and these people just are in two-player vertical stack. They could run it in many different ways and get free. And then once this player gets to this, well, then there's only two people anyway there. Or if this player gets this, there's just one person left. So I think you can play it well in an indoor way, and try it out at your next practice, and the other team is not ready, and maybe you'll beat them. More questions? No? Let's go forward. So we're going to more running things. So now we have the host stack, so three-person host stack. The setup that the Baltics like a lot, or at least have liked in the past. I don't know, maybe it's changed a bit. But that's how everyone played at some point. So, two handlers, three players in a house stack. And now, of course, you need to start to think how you do some smart cutting here, okay? Because there's three. I think sometimes what people say is, okay, why don't we give initiation to the middle cutter? Because they're sort of in the middle, they can be thread to many directions, and then they can again, attack all of these four spots in some way or fashion. Like that could work. Or sometimes you could do that, let's have the two people on the open side working somehow together. Maybe they run the same diamond movement that I showed before with two people, just two people still, right? This person runs here, this person runs here, then he comes under, and then this player goes deep. You could do that, just to have a bit less space. And you maybe know some more moves what you can do. You can of course set up some fancy set plays and all of that. Personally, I don't like it. This setup, I think, is really hard. I think it ends up with a lot of throws and a lot of opportunities for defense to play smart defense and kind of put pressure. But if you have a team that doesn't have too many good throwers, then you are maybe forced to only have two handlers, and then you either do this or you do a three-person vertical stack. Questions? Comments? No? Okay. Yes, and then the last one I have is the three-person vertical stack. So with three-person stacks, I would usually prefer that. I think that gives some more nice options, creates some more spaces. You can effectively be in the stack and not sort of have your defender create a lot of problems for others. So here you can, do different things. You can initiate from the back, and there's an option to cut to this space and this space. it can be hard to just cut the D spaces from the back with this setup without any kind of pre-move. So sometimes what you see is that you pull away the last one to create deep space. So you have the last one, let's say, cut under on the open side. Now you have created the deep space, and now you can send either one or two to the deep space. So this player can now attack this space or this space or this space effectively. You have some good options in word stack with that. You can also have, instead, looking for the number 1 very effectively. You can play it a bit offset, so you really look for the break side a lot. So you initiate, so you want the number 1 to be hit into that space with a break throw, and then you can continue with some small throws, or maybe you throw to the end zone right away. And you can of course run some set plays from a word stack. There's a lot of different ones. You can, this one here, this one here, this one under, for example. Good options, vertical stack. It's been in many places. But I would say that mainly, like, your setup should be that you are either looking for the last one or the first one, sort of as when you're running it during the point, like where are the kind of main cuts coming from? Are they coming from the last person or are they coming from the first person? This setup is a lot of running, but it's hard to defend, and it also gives some good reset options because you only have one dump, and that dump can always go up line, and this space is a threat because in a word stack there is space, so defense needs to worry about that, and then you create a lot of space here for the second dump option if you need to, and then you can flow to the break side and things like that. So I think the 3-person vertical stack offers quite a lot of things to you, a lot of tools, indoor and of course outdoor as well. Questions about 3-person vertical stack? No. Okay. Is there any setup that I didn't touch upon that you think is a good one indoors?
Any side stacks or?
Yeah, so I haven't seen anyone playing side stack sort of throughout the point, but definitely as a set play, yes. So that your initial movement comes from the side stack. So let's say the most basic side stack play would be that you have the first one sort of coming under or across, and then the second one attacking sort of that space, because their defenders initially, were something like this. So you have these options. Like that would be the simplest side stack rule. But there will be more ways how you can spin the defenders and get free. But I have not seen anyone play side stack sort of all throughout the point. The players stay in the side stack. I think it's tough indoors with the lack of space. Anything more? Okay. So maybe just a quick poll. So what does Tartu play mainly?
Mostly horizontal, I guess. As you touched upon the fact that it requires a lot of good throwers, and I think throughout the last years we've had a lot of rookies, so we don't have that much throwing power, so we kind of can't afford more than 2-handers.
Yeah, so you play a 3-person hoe?
Usually.
What does Saku play? Almost everything?
I think more vertical.
But we tend to switch if one doesn't work, so we're not afraid of using different stuff to see what does work.
Definitely not 1-on-1.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen that one yet.
What does Stalin play?
Like it's horizontal.
Yeah. And how many cutters?
I would say 3.
3 cutters. Okay. Thanks for sharing. Then end zone offense. So, in my opinion, there's one good way to play offense around end zone, and not really other good ways, or at least I haven't experienced them. And because end zone is small, then you don't want to have too many people in the end zone because it gets crowded and defense has a lot of chances to work together and get the turn. So it makes sense to have like 3 players out of the end zone to have space. That means you have 2 people in the end zone, and the smartest way to sort of put them space-wise is put them in the middle in a word stack. So that gives you a space here where you can attack, a space here where you can attack, and sort of space here where you can attack. And I think you should sort of take what you can. If you have no open side throw available, take it. If you have break side throw available, take it. There's a lot of good ways. But one nice way to also play it here is to say that, hey, if you are the front one in the end zone, then actually you cut under. So you cut into this space, okay? Because your player is worried about you catching it in the end zone. So they tend to be behind you. So maybe you can just run or make a small fake and run, and then get the disc here in front of the end zone. So it's not a score yet. So the defense sort of is also happy. Okay, my player didn't score, but you kind of got the disc because you were free. And then once you get the disc here, then for like the first 2 seconds, what's really nice is that there's a one-on-one situation in the whole end zone. And you might be able to just score quite easily. The problem is, of course, that in this setup, when the disc went here, you have a very crowded handler space, so you can't leave it like this. But you can, let's say, okay, we give this player 2 seconds to see if they can get the score, and if not, then one of the players will go into the end zone, so you don't have too much crowdedness in the dump space, so you can still get a dump off if needed. So number 1 comes under, and then tries to pass it to the number 2. Questions? Comments?
Have you seen teams to really try to force one man in end zone only, or it's usually poached or not tried even?
So whether teams play that there's only one player in the end zone?
Yes, like they really start with that.
I have not seen it.
Okay.
Doesn't sound like a horrible idea. I think you could maybe figure out how to put your dumps here so you could do it. But I haven't seen it.
I've seen situations where there's a turnover near the end zone line, or there has been a timeout close to the end zone. Then they run an isolation.
Yeah.
One-on-one.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I've also seen that. What do you think? What should you do? So if this is what happens, team is coming out of the timeout, and this is how they set up offense. What should you do as defense?
You gotta put the poach defender in the break side where you get scored on every time.
Yes. Yeah. And you can even put the post defender on the open side. Just make sure that the first pass does not go to the end zone. Yes. Like you can see how powerful this is for offense. So why not to run it as your offense near the end zone to create this situation in the play? Like it's almost impossible for this defender there to succeed if none of these other defenders are trying to come and help somehow. Questions, comments more on this? Yes?
Have you ever seen or tried putting the stack not exactly in the middle but more towards the open side so the break throw would be easier?
Yeah, I think you can do that. I think in a way you should do that, like 1 meter or something like that. Yeah. I think it's a smart idea in every word stack to create more space on the break side and then attack that with that. Yes. Anything more? Okay, so this was offense. Any more general questions about indoor offense? Anything that came up? Offensive setups, end zone offense.
Is the zone offense gonna be like a completely different topic, or
Yes.
are we okay?
Like offense against zone.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
What do you think of the 2-1-2 setup isolation
Yeah.
on offense.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Yes, that is also a setup I did not mention. And that is totally being played. So 2-1-2. Yes, so let's just visualize it. Yeah. Two handlers here, one in the isolation, and two here in the end zone. So yes, some teams sometimes play that. They are looking to throw it here to the isolated player. I mean, it has the same advantages as the 3-1-1, related to that you create this lot of space for this person. It has, you could say, also the advantage that you only need to have two good handlers, not three, so you just put those to handle. And then the disadvantage comes, of course, from the fact that you have two players now here in the end zone. So there are sort of two disadvantages related to that. So one is with that first throw. So if the other team plays this setup, then these players should think, okay, so what can we do to improve? So what they would do is that, you know, this player would be, okay, I don't need to defend quite here, so why don't I stay somewhere like here? And then this player is like, oh, I don't also need to be here, so why don't I stay somewhere like this? So now you have sort of effectively limited, you know, sort of this place and this place where the throw can go, if the defense is playing smart. If it would be a 3-1-1, then, you know, the defender there can limit, but only one of those areas, and not two of them. And then probably this one player here in the 3-1-1 will also move a bit. If they see, okay, we want the throw to go break side, they come a bit to the open side, so they really pull away their defender to really make it a 1-1-1. So the first disadvantage is the fact that there's a bit less space to throw this initial throw. And then the second disadvantage would be that once this player does get the disc, here on the break side, then now sort of these two players and their defenders are a bit more limited with the fact that there's two of them. So this one player just can't go, you know, can't just run there and be free there, because then the other player would switch, defender would switch and so on. So it makes the continuation a bit harder because there's two defenders now in the area. But of course they can still work together and maybe come under or do something, and it can be an effective way. But if I would already be willing to play an isolation setup, I think I would rather say, why don't we play 3-1-1 than 2-2-1-2? Because in my head 3-1-1 has a bit more advantages than that 2-1-2. Like, I'm less worried about the fact that I have three handlers there. You can get away. You can still get your resets off. Good. More questions, comments on offense? Yes?
Will 2-2-1 make things better?
What?
Will 2-2-1 make things
2-2-1. Yes.
Yeah, this is
So
very strange, but
yes. So 2-2-1 would be. Yeah. So you would play something like this, right? So again, I think that it has sort of the same advantages as the two-person host stack, with the disadvantage that there's a defender here. So you're limited towards deep. So in that sense, I think, you know, two-person host stack would be more advantageous than a 2-2-1 setup. More questions, comments on offense indoors?
What about the dominator or the three-handler?
Yes.
Where you tell the stack to.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the dominator would be that you say, hey, three handlers, you just move the disc, and two people, you stay away. And then if you're good, then you have told the two people how to stay away. So they could either, you know, stay away like this, or they could stay away like this, or something like that. So basically, what you want to do against the dominator is that you want to use the defenders who are not actively defending the players in the dominator. Okay, so that means that these defenders of these two people, however they are set up, they need to try to help what is going on here. Because if they're not helping, then it really is 3 against 3, at least up until a part of the field where they have run out of space. And these players are not a threat in all positions, so there is an opportunity for the defenders to do play help. So depending on the disc and where the field is and the throwers and so on, they should try to help. So let's say if the disc is here, then the player here can see how much they can go away. Maybe they can be sort of here. They can still reach if a high throw goes. This player is a bit further away, and they can maybe be somewhere like here. Okay? So they're really trying to go as close to them as possible without leaving their people free. And then try to be there, ready. And if a bad throw goes up or something, then go and make your play 100%, and maybe get the turn. I don't know if you have some more thoughts on that.
Wanted to touch on it.
Yes, but it's a way, and it can be very effective to play the dominator. You won't probably score, but you can move up quickly, and then maybe you can get the disc to one of these in the end zone, and then that's a score. More about offense indoor? Okay. So my initial thought was to go and try it in the hole, but I'm thinking that we will not go try it yet. Maybe we'll try a bit later the end zone offense part. I think we won't try the setups as such. I think you have a pretty good idea on here, just on the X's, how the setups are, and you can try them at trainings. But we'll try maybe the end zone offense a little later in the hole. But I'll go to the next topic, so we have some more things to do there. So let's talk about zone and offense against zone. Because as I said in the beginning, you need to know how to play offense against zone. Because otherwise a team will at some point try zone, and if they see that you're not so good at breaking it, then they will keep playing zone until you get good against zone. So you need to, if you want to be a good team, you need to know how to play well against zone. So indoor zone, like there's a limit to how many different ways there is to play zone indoors, and usually the zone looks almost the same for all the teams. So that zone is that it is a say it's a 1-2-2 zone, so or 2-1 depending where you read. So you have one deep, you have two wings, and you have two in the front. Then usually the two in the front force middle, but sometimes it could also be different. They could force one sideline on, they could force both sidelines, but usually it's the middle. So the disc is here, this person is right now forcing forehand, this person is somewhere here, taking away some throwing lane. And then you have the two wings and the deep that then work together to somehow guard the players on the field who are moving around, and then they need to switch them and so on. But sort of that's the setup. And then here, this player is helping with the throws upfield, so if the dump is like more behind, then they're leaving them free. It could be right that they also force sideline, so let's say it's sideline force, then it would look something like this instead, or the sideline or force backhand right now. You could, for example, force one specific sideline if that sideline is different than the other sideline. So maybe the field is such that on one sideline you have the ball really close, and on the other sideline it's further away. And you can force them to that sideline where the wall is really close. So first, any questions about this zone defense before we talk about how to play against zone defense? In the end zone, this zone defense is usually three people in the end zone and then two out. and then they are forcing middle or forcing sideline, whatever they're forcing, and then these players all try to sort of guard their respective part of the end zone. Yeah. Any questions about zone defense in the zone? So what are the different ideas how to play against zone when you are indoor? So I think there are two effective ways. So one effective way would be to play actually the 2-1-2, which I said isn't so great, perhaps person to person, but it could actually work very well against the zone. So if you play 2-1-2, then you need to have very good throwers, because these players need to be a threat all the time. So effectively you need throwers that are able to throw it from your end zone to the other end zone, a fast, quick blade. If you don't have such throwers, then you probably shouldn't play 2-1-2 against the zone, because all of the players need to be a threat at all times. And when you play 2-1-2, then sort of the place where you start to break down the zone defense is from the deep. Because if you remember, there was one guy deep in this zone. And now there's two players trying to stretch this one player. So this is problematic. And then this team has good throwers, so this player is worried this throw might come. So what happens is that then this player calls out, or the wing reacts and starts to help. So let's say what they do is that this player goes here, and then this wing is being brought down here. So now there's a wing that has brought to help with the deep. So that means that here you have sort of a 3-on-3 situation where they are trying to play zone. And you have a lot of ways to beat this, actually. You can you can move the disc around and move it to break side. You can go up line, move it to break side, move up line. Like, it's really tough for these defenders in the zone format to react to all the kind of moves that you can make here. So at some point the disc is going to end up somewhere in the middle. So whoever gets the disc, let's say the disc ends up here, what should now happen is that as soon as the disc moves up, then you have the closer offense here should cut towards the disc, because this is how they can get free fast. And then if they get the disc, then of course then they go to the one in the end zone. But basically the key idea here is that if the disc moves up, then the move here for the offense is to cut towards the disc and not away from the disc or towards sideline. This also would apply outdoors, and this is something that 80% of the players are doing wrong. They try to go in more deep or something. But what you actually want to happen is that the disc goes up and then goes up right away. And that's why it has to come under here. So you start to break down the defense from the deep space. You pull this one wing away to help, and then you have created a lot of space for 3 against 3. You somehow move the disc up, and once you move it up, then you see if you can continue right away from the top. Questions, comments?
Are you gonna explain some other stack options against zone?
Yeah, I'll explain one more option. This right after this. So this is now for 2-1-2. Does any of you play 2-1-2 against indoor zone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Sometimes.
Sometimes? Yeah. How do you how do you try to do it? What do you try to?
I don't know. I guess just to keep we want to be threats in the zone. So to get, as you said, to get the wing away, so there's more space, and just to keep moving all the time, so they don't start poaching and getting in the way of other players.
Yeah. Okay.
As a handler, I like this because then we create more space for the sides, and then you have always the option to throw like over, like just a really small pass over, and it always works because it's really hard for the defender to get there.
Yeah. So you are thinking like this throw here.
Yeah,
or-
yeah. And even like sometimes like the wing tries to come to help, but they are usually late, and then like the player gets free in the end zone.
Yeah, right
So,
away.
yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Any more? Okay, so this was the 2-1-2, and then the alternative would be the 3-1-1. So you would basically play the German 3-1-1. So here, it's still very important that the deep is very deep, okay? Because where is the deep and where is the deep's defender creates like the whole space for where the game happens. So you want to make the space as big as possible as offense. So you need to be a threat as far upfield as possible. So you want to have a player here deep, creating that big space. And now that this player is alone, they need to do perhaps a bit more than in the 2-1-2. Now what is important is that this player is not just being stationary, but it is with the flow, trying to like move and attack and try to like make it uncomfortable for the other team to defend this player, right? So they need to go from side to side, sometimes cut under. If they cut under and don't get it, they need to go right away back and so on. Okay, so we need a smart deep there that does smart moves at the right time. Like don't put somebody who doesn't know much about ultimate there, because then you have very little space to play. Then you have here the middle one, and the middle one can really be a threat to a lot of places. Okay. What is cool about the middle one is that they can sort of be the threat here with these spots, so kind of over, but not so far that the deep defender can defend. But if needed, they can also, make a whatever cut to the right space at the right time, under, sideways. And then what you have is that then you have the three players here, the three handlers, and they should be quite active. They should be running quite a lot. So this is a more running setup. If they can stand in the right place, they should do it, but they should be ready to run. So kind of what you want to create in some ways is you want to create a setup where you have often like something like this. Okay, you're sort of playing on a few different levels, so that these three players, they're playing here on two levels that they can attack. So you can make, some up the line moves, or you can, you made her up the line. So let's say this goes here. You made her up the line move. You didn't get it, but then you sort of hang out here a bit, and the defense needs to choose something because there's other people to defend, and maybe you are free there for, a little 8-meter blade, or maybe just whatever, just a break throw, backhand, forehand. So you basically have, this space here. You can really play with, and of course all this place as well. So you kind of have in some ways two levels here, and you can run a lot, and you can, collaborate of course with this player as well. And then the idea again is that as soon as you move the disc up, we want to continue the next throw. So if the disc has been moved a little bit forward, then this player wants to make a cut, towards the disc or horizontally to the disc, so they get right away the next pass. Or if the disc is moved up, then also this deep could come here under and try to get the next pass. But the idea is the same. Once you move the disc up against the zone, you want an option where this player can throw within the first second more up, and then hopefully even more up. And the defense is just trying to save and get back control, but you are not letting them be in control. So if you are this player here, and let's say this player gets here, disc here, don't give them the option to ram through the end zone. because that takes long time. The defense sets up. Give them the option to throw the disc right away, to continue right away the disc. Questions, comments on the 3-1-1?
I have one.
Yes.
So do I understand right that basically if in a normal 3-1-1, the isolated person would more or less kind of look for wait for the disc and run for the disc that is
Yes.
thrown, then here they're actually the ones that initiate the cut.
Yeah, very good question. So where does movement start, right? So here in the 3-1-1, it's usually the movement starts from the handler. It's a bit more like a dominator. Okay, so you start the movement here, and this player just tries to be in a smart place. Sometimes they are free, but often they get free after a throw. So somewhere the throw goes, and then now suddenly the defender here is in a bad spot, and then you can go for the next throw. So against the zone, these are the people that are the most active in the 3-1-1. And then it is that person that's a bit less active, and then this person that is the least active. Actively trying to get the disc. Of course, yeah. Yes. Does that answer the question? Yes? More? Questions, comments? Has anyone played like this, 3-1-1 against zone? Yes? So when you have played, have you discussed how you want to break down the zone defense? What are the good spots to do it? Which way? Or what has maybe in retrospect worked?
I think one that works well is when the disc is in the side, the middle one goes both the two handers go upline, one goes and usually who is the further usually gets the disc, because you have one wing and she has to decide who take, and usually they take the first one, and then the one who is further to the sideline or in zone usually gets the disc.
So there's a defender here, they pick them up, and then they go after, and there's nobody here to defend. Nice. Good move. Stretching a defender. Anything more?
There are no strictly easy places for newbies, but if you need to put one or two newbie in this situation, where would you put them?
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah. I think what I said was don't put the newbie there, and I think now I'm going to tell you put the newbie there. Because I think, I mean,
it's not hard to explain to him to cut a bit in the back,
I mean, I would say you can put the newbie also as one of the three handlers. Like just tell them to run around. I think that will create enough challenges.
But the deep space would make the less damage, though, if they don't do anything. So
yeah, yes. So yeah, depending on the newbiness level. Yes. Yeah. More questions, comments on this? Something more.
And always if you have a lot of people in the middle, then you should always find somewhere in the side to put the disc in the side,
Yes.
where the space is.
Yes. Yes. And don't hold on to the disc. Move the disc against the zone. Move it. It's not free there, then go the other way.
Should you risk or play it safe, with the handlers, or risk it with the middle one?
Yeah, safe.
Okay.
Safe. Play it safe. Move the disc, run. It's just more efficient because the thing about zone defense indoor is that it is not good at generating actual pressure. In the end of the day, you can still look for your dump, and if they cut backwards, you can throw it to them, and you can reset the disc, reset the stall. So don't give the defense some chances. Just why don't I take this one-on-one situation here and then just put it there? You don't need it. Move it around enough times, you'll get 99% chance. Don't throw the 80% chance. You don't need it. Be patient and move the disc. Oh, yeah, that part as well. So how to play against zone near the end zone. So you had these three defenders here. Oh no, sorry, these are not defenders. You had the three defenders here, and then here. So the way how you want to play against zone is you want to have still three handlers and two in a word stack. So that's nice. That's the same as you would do in a person-to-person situation. And then what you want to do is you want to, from the cutter's perspective, you want to again stretch one defender. So you want to create situations where there's one defender defending you two. So if you cut towards the sideline, that means one of you cuts to the back cone and one of you cuts to the front cone at the same time. So this defender has to choose. Or maybe you can somehow create this situation. You can create this situation here in the middle. Then maybe one of you cuts kind of here in the front a bit. And then this player is like, what should I do? And they cover the front, and then the blade goes to the back, or they stay at the back, and then the person there just catches like that and scores. So try to find ways how to stretch one defender. So two of you need to work together, because if you work separately, then good defense will get you. So that was one thing. And then the other thing is you wanna move the disc here. You want to move the disc a lot around, because the more you move it, at some point the defense is going to make a mistake. And what is important is that you create a triangle here between these people. So there is one way how you can actually get under pressure, and that is that you don't create this triangle. So the way how you get under pressure against zone is that your players are like this. And then this player looks in the front for like 5 seconds, and then starts to look at the dump. And then the two dumps are just like one behind another, and then actually the defense here, the one defense here, is able to maybe put pressure, and then you maybe need to throw some fast throw here, and sometimes you throw over, or a defender can make a play. So always have a triangle. So when you look for your dump, you have two clear throwing lanes to throw to. Then you're not under pressure. So very important, this player. Make sure that when the time is right, you are here making this triangle, and you're not making it unnecessarily hard for the throw. And then what you want to do here is that you want to try to sort of jump it in, or jump it right in front. So you want to create some situations where you do some pass and go move, give and go moves, pass and go moves. So let's say you throw the disc here, and you try to attack there. Or let's say when the disc is here, you throw the disc there, and try to attack there. So as handlers, you sort of attack this front line here, often. Because then the defense needs to react, and sometimes they don't, and then there's an option. Like, it's much safer to sort of jump it in. Then there was no defender ever really who had a chance to block it. If you throw like a blade, then it's still a one-on-one situation there, and then there's a chance to block it. But if you sort of, from a safe throw, you can just jump it in 1 meter, that's like the safest way to score. So that's what you want to do against the end zone, in the end zone against zone defense. Questions, comments?
How do you prevent it as a defender?
How do you
Prevent it from happening?
What should you do in defense?
Yeah.
Yes, so in defense, you should try to protect the front line a lot when you are the two people in the front. Right? So you have the people here in the end zone. I mean, they need to do their best. Like, they are guarding actively players who are a threat. They need to all the time communicate and switch people around, and that's their job, right? But it's really hard for them to, on top of that guard, the handlers jumping in to the front line. If they are really good, they can pay attention to it, and sometimes yes, they can do it, but it should really be a strong focus for these two here. So whenever one of you is marking, then the other one is protecting the front line. Okay? Like, be here, okay? Like, protect the front line. Don't be here and then maybe get beaten or like that. protect the front line. Always, always, always. And the hardest is, of course, when the disc is being thrown. So let's say this is the setup, and the disc goes here. Tick, 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 tick. Then whichever way you agree on switching, you know, you need to make sure that you protect the front line really fast. So maybe you have agreed that this player now runs here and tries to put on a mark. Then now this player, when he sees this happen, they need to sprint as fast as they can to protect this front line again. Because if they are slow, then somebody cuts here potentially and scores. So they sprint hard to always protect the front line. Yes? More questions, comments?
Is it a valid strategy to just like tire the handler defense out?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna chuck it over you until you die, or
Yeah, totally fine. Just swing it like 5 times, the defense is already gonna have holes in it. And I would also say, you know, sometimes people don't like to take the easy route. They have the disc here, and they're like, well, I'm just gonna throw it here. You can, but I don't see a reason why you should. I think, you know, just take the easy route. It's fine, just throw it here, and throw it back here. Throw it here, and throw it back here. You don't need to just, okay, because I can, I throw it there. Because every time you make that throw, you create risk. Indoor field is small. You make a small misjudgment, and the throw ends up there, and you just turn it over. So, you know, unless the defense is actively taking away this player, and this player is completely free, I would always go through the middle person. Like, you don't need the risk. There's no pressure from defense. Just be patient, move it around, something's gonna happen. More questions, comments?
No, comment only about the end zone play. So when the offense was, so you said to kind of like cut to the same place.
Yeah.
And like at first it feels like it has to be a lot of communication, but actually what you said when you showed it before was really cool. That basically you need to just ghost the last person checks what the person is doing, like it goes in the same movements exactly, and then you don't need to communicate. You see it and you
Yes.
just do it at the same time. So it's like, yeah, it was just like a thought.
Yes,
Just
I think it's a good way. If you are the, you know, if you are the second person, if the first player makes a move, make a move with that player. So if they make a move, you know, here, then stay there. If they make a move here, go here. If they make a move maybe there, okay, maybe you go here. Like, do
initiate,
yeah.
the person.
Somehow try to, stretch the defense. More questions, comments?
Yeah, if you need to start taking some risks, so let's say in the end game type, and you need to score faster, what are the type of risks you want to take?
Okay, so
You
now
can't
there's a
have some
situation where the time is running out, and if you don't score, you lose the game.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it can happen in PagaCap sometimes. I mean, it depends how little time you have. I would say that if you still have a minute, then I would just go crazy on running the give and go, like try to jump it in. And if you are down to the last, 10 seconds, then just throw it up there to your big player and let them just catch it. Yeah. But I think it happens very. You could say that if the other team wants to kill time, they do put up zone. That's a good way. So it can happen. But yeah, I think it happens still quite rarely. That you are in a game that you can actively win, and your separation is 4, and you just need to cut it down to 3. But yes, I would first do some running, and then if nothing else, then just put it up. More questions, comments?
So in case, like the 2 players in the zone actually go to one of the sides, like stretch up to one of those players, and should the defender in the middle follow up with the players, or?
Yeah. So yes. So basically, these players here need to make sure that if they are there where the offense players are. This is just I'm in the middle, I'm in the right, I'm in the left. This is just a guidance for these 3 players. Their actual task is guard everyone in the end zone, no matter what. Okay, so So that is what their main task is. So that means all players need to be guarded at all times that are in the end zone. So if there are two offensive players moving towards the sideline, then the middle defender has to go and follow one of them. Because we need always, one defender on one offense player in the end zone. So they will go move. So it can totally be that we have a situation where you have one offense player here, one offense player here, one defender here, the other one here, and then there's all this other space sort of for the third defender. If the disc is here, maybe they have moved a bit here to the middle. But depending on where their player is, of course. If there's a third player here, if this one has snuck here, they need to sort of be somewhere here where they think they can still make it. And if there's another player here, then they have moved also with that player. So you move where the players are. And if in the running around things sometimes makes sense to change positions, that the one who was on the right now becomes the middle and the one who was middle becomes the right, then just say it. Say, okay, I'm in the middle now. Oh, I'm on the right. Okay, good. Then you know once this situation solves who is going to be more there. More questions, comments? Yes?
If you're close to zone as defender, would be wise to switch to 1-1 defense.
So yeah, so you could do that. Yeah, you could have a setup where you play zone on full field and then you go to a person-person defense near the end zone. You can do it and it can be fine. I think it can be hard sometimes because usually the reason to switch is that the other team has gained some momentum. Like they have beaten your zone, they are like actively going there. So it can be hard to transition effectively from a zone to a person defense without letting them score. But you can definitely do that, yeah. More questions, comments? Okay, use throwing fakes. Last thing, super relevant. Against any zone, indoor, outdoor, throwing fakes are your friend. The other team is so much worried, that you're gonna throw. So if you make a big fake, you can make 3-4 people move that way. So use throwing fakes. Yes. Okay. Yes. Well, let's talk this through as well before we go to the hall. So, offensive set plays. So, in my opinion, the most important set plays are your set plays to get up from the sideline after a turnover or stop disc, because that is where you're the most weak as offense. So, when you put the disc in play from the sideline and defense is ready. It's really good to have some set plays. And there are of course many ways you can make a lot of different kinds of set plays, but there are some few good, well-proven set plays that work for many teams, and they can also work for you, and I know they are working for some of you. So one of the options is that you have, so let's say you put the disc in play here, is that you have 3 handlers, and then you have 3 people in a stack somehow. They can be in a horizontal or they can be in a vertical. Actually, it doesn't matter because you're looking at the handlers for the initial play. So the play is that first dump goes upline. If they are free, you throw them. Second dump is looking behind. If they are free, you throw it to them. If they are not, then they change direction and go upline. If they are free, you throw it to them. And if all else fails, you have created a huge space where some of these cutters can come run under, and then you throw it to them. So in a short time, you have 4 actually very solid options to throw to. So this is a nice one. And I think this is one of the safer sideline set plays you have. Any questions, comments on this set play? Then another one is that you have 1 dump and 3 in a vertical stack. And basically what you do is that you again make space by moving the dump up. So again, this is a good option. If they're free, you throw it to. And then what you have done is that you have created a little space here. And then whatever you choose, you can have either number 1 or number 2 or number 3 cut to that space. Each of them can be effective. Let's say it's number 1. So when this happens, then they go and cut down to this space. If they are free, great. If they're not, then they actually also have the move to go up line one more time. And they can get the disc there. And if all else fails, you can still go break side here. Or maybe you throw to this person going up here, something like that. But another fine set play from sideline. Any questions about this one?
You pretty much said it, but yeah, if you start it on stall 1, you can do it like multiple times. If you're not open the first time, then the next player can come and go up the line, and you can just run it like twice before you get stall out. So
yes,
somebody's gonna get open.
Yes, yes. And you usually run it. You have the full stall, and everyone's ready, and that's the time when you should run a set play. If you don't have the time and all of that, then don't run it. For other set plays, I won't show any of them here. There's like many set plays you can think of. They are all fine in different ways. I think that you can actively win titles by not having any set plays beside your sideline set plays. I think that the set plays from the middle of the field and such, in general, are not that important as often people think they are. What's much more important is how is your offensive setup in general, and that you have a good setup, that you have a good set play from the pull play. It can be nice, it can be sort of an easy way to score some points sometimes or get it moving, but it's not, you don't need it necessarily. You can just have good patterns in your offensive tactics that you run, and that's fine. But I would say if you don't have a sideline set play, then you can really put yourself in a weak position, because you can get trouble. I mean, this is the place where you can give away turns because the other team can put good pressure on you. So if your team should have any set plays at all, I'd say first have one sideline set play. And if you're going to make the second set play, I would say make the second sideline set play. And only when you want to have 3 set plays, then let the third one be a pull sideline, some pull play from the middle. In my head, the sideline set plays are much more important because that's when you need them the most. And maybe last thing about set plays is that ideally you have them in pairs. So you sort of have, you run 2 plays from the same position, because then the defense doesn't know what to look for. So they look the same, but you can run it in 2 opposite ways. So the defense doesn't know what you're going to do. So if you're really into set plays, then make it so. Make them in pairs. Make it look the same when it starts, but then make the running patterns different. Ultimate skills, ta-da, we talked about it. Yes, there were a few questions about offense, so thanks for sending those in. First one was how to teach people to see the full field, for example, many throwing options. So this can be very difficult. Again, it starts with explaining what are all the possible options. So a player needs to first know that there are these potential options available for them. It's hard to come up just like that. So you need to show, okay, in this position, you can throw it here or you can throw it there. And in that position, you can throw it here or throw it there. So you make them aware of these different options. And then you make drills where you give the player a chance to choose between multiple options happening at the same time. So the most simple, what you could do indoor, for example, would be that you have a thrower and a marker, and you have 2 toe stack cutters, and then you basically start the drill, and these 2 toe stack cutters can start cutting however they want. And then you, as a thrower now, will then choose, you know, do I throw to this player here, or do I throw to this player here, or do I wait, don't throw it, give a fake, and wait when this player comes under. So you give them sort of chances to see multiple things, and then, you know, when they make their decisions, you can always give feedback and say, hey, I think like this option, there was actually more room because of this and that, or this option was really good that you threw because that was clearly the best one. So you sort of find isolated parts of the game where you can train this. And then, of course, a lot of playing. The more people play, the better they get at this, and video as well. So video analysis. Then how to improve teams, timing of cuts and continuation. So again, first of all, start with, you know, theory. What is a good cut? So if I ask you, can anyone tell me some characteristics of a good cut?
Short, fast.
Sharp, fast, anything more?
Free.
Free, yeah.
Convincing.
Well timed.
Well timed, yes.
In a good angle that the thrower doesn't have to throw like a very, very precise throw, but
Yes,
in the field, basically.
yeah. So more margin for error, yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, so there's a lot of good small things about what a good cut would be. So first you want to start with that. And then then I would ask you about this well timed. So if you would have to explain to a new player what is a well timed cut, then what would you say to that player?
If I'm getting the disc, then I'm able to throw it right away to you.
Yes, okay. So right away. So be free right away. Any other versions? But that's fine, right? That's about the previous player getting it and timing that they are ready to throw it to you and don't need to wait, you know, too long. So that is what well-timed cut is. Then you can practice, you know, some continuation drills, obviously, where you practice that skill. You know, probably you have run something like that you have a player here that starts with a disc, and then you have a word stack, you know, whatever players you want to have, doesn't matter, and everybody does this movement. You keep moving forward, and comes there, comes under, catches, and then the next player needs to time so that when this catches, turns around, is able to move. So the disc just goes boom, 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 and you could practice that as a team. Really nice, really easy. I mean, you can very well see, are people doing well-timed cuts or not? You can talk about it, improve it. So what else you could do? You could set some constraints that show the value of this. So you could set up a game or a drill where you set the stall really low. So basically, you make it so that if the team is not doing well-timed cuts, then they just get a stall out or risky throw. So make a game where the stall is free, you know, and you force people to try to time their cuts, or make hotbox, or you know, the holding the disc like that. You could also set a constraint where you say that you can only move the disc in one direction. So you can only say that disc always needs to go one way. You can never have a throw where it goes backwards. Then the only way to succeed is that you need to create flow going forward. Because if you are bad at it, then you stop, and then the drill punishes you, and it's really tough. So use some constraints that will, reward well-timingness of cuts. Yes. How to hack was a question. As I said, I don't really know much about throwing. I mean, you don't need to hack indoor. So indoor, just throw those hammers and blades. So of course, there are a few people there that know a bit more about throwing, so try to seek those out and they can actually give you some ideas about the technique. But if you sort of just focus on the result part, then there are a few characteristics of a good hack, like how the result looks like. So let's see if we can come up with some of them. So what are the characteristics of a good hack?
It's caught by the player from your team.
Yes.
Inbounds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What more?
Doesn't fade away from the cutter.
Yes. It comes towards the player in the end, right? So that this doesn't go away from the player. Yeah. What else?
Yeah, thrown in the space, not at the person, because then there's again a margin to succeed.
Yes. Yes. So the player should never wait for the disc to be catchable. They should be able to do 100% and catch it. So is it in front of them, or it can be a little jump, but they should never wait. They should never slow down. Anything more?
Everything else applies that was said before, but it shouldn't be too flippy, otherwise it's really tough to read.
Like too angled, or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
turn
mean,
over.
too flippy, turning over. So if you want to do a disc that is, let's say, moving from left to right in the end, slightly, you don't want to do it flat throw and high, so it flips over and then it comes left to right, but it becomes like a really sharp one, or a really fast one to catch. So rather you want to do a floaty one with a sweet spot in front of the player, so maybe it fades a little bit only. So nothing too flippy. Otherwise, if you're a cutter and you go towards the end zone, you have only just one look on this. You see the angle, and if it's a really flippy disc, then it's actually still flipping, or so is it. Then you think it's going there, but it's actually flipping to the right.
Yeah. Nice.
It's all about throwing technique.
Yeah. That's right. And then the last thing I wrote that wasn't mentioned, but perhaps it's always that you put it in a place where the offense has the most advantage. Right. So for example, when let's say we are outdoor, because that's just the example I have in mind. So you are a thrower here, and you have a cutter here going deep this way, and the force is forehand. So the defender is sort of following here, right? Following here. Then instead of throwing the disc here, I throw the disc here. Because if you throw the disc here, then the defense has the longest path to make a block. If you throw the disc there, then the still offense has advantage, but defense has a bit shorter path to get a block. So try to put the disc to the spot where the defender has the least likely chance to make a play.
And Jack said that it should be fading into the runner, but if it's fading slightly away from the defender, I think personally it's better, because then they have even less chance to go for this.
Yeah. Yes. So any extra things about these 3 questions?
About the last one, just that maybe it more answers the question about when to huck, but it's always much easier to huck from a power position, like from a standstill when you're already being marked really tough. It's kind of hard to make a full field huck, right? So yeah, that also continues or like connects to the timing part as well. When somebody has a power position, you go, right?
Yes, for sure.
So for me, it was the first question that it feels like sometimes when people swing and stuff, they kind of sort of have a tunnel vision, so they see the swing, they see the first link out, but they never check anything around. So there is a possibility for hack, but no one even notices, So that was the first question, more like how to show people to see this full field, how to, I don't know, maybe if some handlers are tall, so they see it very well. For example, Orlovsky's, right? He's like, for me, he's the player that sees the field the best I've ever seen, ever. Because he like sees people that cut that no one else sees. And I'm just thinking, how does that work? Because like a lot of people just have this tunnel vision that they just see the main options, but never the like huck or anything over that other people see. So that was main.
He has a good vantage point from up
He
there.
does. That's what I'm saying. Maybe the tall people have this this thing.
Maybe
That's all.
it's from the confidence and your throwing abilities as well. Like if you know that you can't throw to break side, then probably you're not even looking there. Like if you know you can only like throw open side backhand, then probably you're just looking there. But I think if you have more skills, you're more developed, then you will start to see more options as well. Just to be more.
Nice. Anything else? Then yes. Then we will go to the hall and we will practice playing against zone, and we will be playing and then I'll be commenting and stuff. So now we should do a little warm up. Robin, can you lead a very